herself. And in the quiet aftermath, when fame faded and wounds slowly healed, she asked him why he never told her sooner, why he loved her in silence for so long. And Gu Hanshin answered that real love is not possession, that it is protection without interference, presence without pressure, and patience without expectation. And as she leaned into him, finally safe, finally home, Xingyue understood that sometimes betrayal does not end a story. It sharpens it, carving the path toward a love so deep, so unwavering, that it can only be seen after everything else falls apart. She entered his world like a lamb walking into a slaughterhouse, heels trembling on the marble floor of the tallest corporate tower in the city, clutching a medical file that smelled of antiseptic and desperation, because her mother was dying, slowly, painfully, chained to machines that beeped like countdowns, and the only man who could save her was the one everyone feared, the monster CEO known as Adrian Blackthorne, a name whispered in boardrooms like a curse, a man rumored to crush rivals, destroy families, and wear his cruelty like armor, his face always hidden behind shadows and scars that crawled across his skin like burned secrets. They said he was disfigured by fire, by betrayal, by something so horrific it carved the humanity out of him. And when she finally stood before him, her breath caught not from fear alone but from the suffocating gravity of his presence. Tall, unmoving, eyes like frozen storms, scars jagged and cruel under harsh white light. Yet when he spoke, his voice was calm, surgical, terrifyingly controlled, and he told her plainly that he would pay for her mother's surgery, experimental treatment, lifetime care. But nothing in this world was free, and the price he demanded wasn't money, wasn't loyalty, wasn't silence. It was her. A contract marriage, 3 years, public, airtight, no love, no questions, no escape, and she agreed because love had already taught her how to bleed, because a daughter's heart will always choose sacrifice over dignity, and so she signed her name beneath his like a death sentence, unaware that the scars on his face were the least dangerous lies in the room, unaware that every step deeper into his life would unravel truths darker and brighter than she could survive. Living with him was a nightmare stitched with contradictions. He never touched her without permission, never raised his voice, never crossed the invisible lines he'd drawn, yet the world outside painted him as a beast while inside those walls he moved like a wounded king guarding ruins, watching her with an intensity that felt less like desire and more like grief. And the nights were the worst, when she heard him pacing, breathing unevenly, whispering names into the dark, when she noticed the scars never changed, never healed, never reacted like real scars should, and suspicion crept in like a slow poison, because nothing about Adrian Blackthorne matched the monster in the headlines. He funded orphanages in secret, paid for surgeries anonymously, destroyed human traffickers with ruthless precision, and when her mother finally woke after surgery, alive against all odds, the first thing she said through tears was, "He's been protecting you," a sentence that cracked reality open, leading her to uncover the first horrifying truth. The scars were prosthetics, masterfully crafted, worn like a mask, and the man beneath them was not burned by fire but by betrayal, by a conspiracy years ago where his own family staged his disfigurement, to erase him, to steal his inheritance, to turn him into a monster the world could blame while he rebuilt himself in the shadows. When she confronted him, ripping away the illusion he'd hidden behind, she expected rage, violence, punishment, but instead he broke, collapsing to his knees, confessing that the scars were never meant to deceive her, that he wore them to remind himself of what trust had cost him, that he never planned to fall in love, especially not with a woman who walked into his office ready to trade herself for her mother's life, because that kind of love mirrored his own deepest wound. And the twist came like a blade when enemies from his past resurfaced, targeting her mother, revealing the marriage was never just a contract but a shield, a way to keep her close where he could protect her, even if it meant letting her hate him. And when gunfire shattered glass and blood-stained marble floors, she realized the monster the world feared was the man bleeding in front of her, shielding her with his body, whispering apologies for scars that were fake and love that was devastatingly real. The final truth unraveled slowly, painfully, like a confession written in tears, when she learned that Adrian had loved her long before the contract, long before the hospital, long before desperation drove her to his door. He had funded her education anonymously, paid for her mother's treatments years earlier, followed her life from a distance after witnessing her stand between her sick mother and a violent landlord, recognizing in her the same fearless love that once destroyed him. And every move he made, every cold word, Every cruel rumor he allowed to spread was part of a strategy to survive a world that punished kindness. But love is a stubborn thing, and it surfaced anyway, in the way he memorized her silences, learned her nightmares, left lights on because he noticed she feared the dark, and when his enemies finally fell and the truth exploded across headlines. Monster CEO exposed as protector. Scars were fake. Heart was not. The world demanded explanations, forgiveness, spectacle, but what mattered was the quiet hospital room where her mother squeezed his hand and called him son, where she finally chose him not out of obligation but out of understanding, realizing that the most terrifying monsters are often men who learn to survive without being loved, and the deepest miracles are born when two broken souls stop pretending they are unbreakable. In the end, there was no grand wedding, no fairy tale ending wrapped in gold, just two people standing on the ruins of lies, choosing truth, choosing each other, choosing a love that didn't need scars to prove it was real. And as the city lights flickered below their balcony, she whispered that she would have walked into hell for her mother, and he answered softly that he already had. Just to love her.